So, yes, my name's Chef. I'm a user experience consultant, now working at Immersive Labs. Been doing this a number of years now, and I just thought, Dave, you thought your slides were boring. No pictures on them. So, sorry, everyone. Yes, and I'm going to be talking about the real challenge that I found in delivering the right solution. So I guess this all came about. This is going to be a bit of a meandering story because this is how the talk came out. I was thinking, I've been doing this a long time. We're coming into a new year. It's like, what have I learned in all that time, and what would I do differently, in the past, having the knowledge I have now? And as I've been going over this, doing this stuff, I think I've spent a lot of time looking at, say, the research methods we use. So that is, are we doing some ethnography, are we doing more kind of quantitative research, are we doing surveys? What is going to get us the value we need, the understanding we need to proceed with this project? Spend a lot of time looking at different design tools. So, am I paper prototyping something? Are we running a more collaborative session? Am I using OmniGraph or even video many years ago? There's a lot of thought put into that. And then there's the whole process side of things, like we worked in waterfall, agile and lean, as you were saying, and we're taking a design thinking approach. There's all these things that go into like doing a project. Looking back now, whenever anything, and this isn't, let me caveat this before I go any further, not every project has these challenges, but when things have not gone as you would like them to have gone, it's been the organizational culture, I think, that's caused those challenges. So we'll dig a little more into that. So I guess, just to give a bit more detail there, that could be working as with a client, so in an agency side or in your internal organization, either of those. So first of all, I was like, well, this isn't necessarily part of what a lot of people would consider UX, so why should we care? I have some lovely quotes of people who say these things better than I do. So absence of buy-in and about a problem's definition, scope and goals can kill a project just as surely as faulty implementation. So that's why we as UXers should be caring about this. And I think there's also something in this, as I was thinking through this problem in this kind of history, was what makes this, is it like a specifically digital kind of phenomenon we're dealing with here? And I came across and kind of borrowed and bastardized this model. If you look at traditional projects and digital design projects, they have these kind of three features. So there's this nature of definition. Is it a clearly defined problem that you're solving? So for example, if you took something like, a good example, a bridge. So you're trying to build a bridge over Avon Gorge. You have a very clearly defined problem. You need to get people from A to B or goods from A to B, whatever it may be. That's not going to change kind of overnight. So stability-wise, very little kind of change, and also very little change, I imagine, being not an expert in architecture and engineering, very little change in the technology within short periods of time. And then there's this element of social complexity. Again, I'm making a bit of a leap here because I don't build bridges. I imagine when they were building those bridges, it was a relatively kind of hierarchical system. So there's a few people at the top who needed to know stuff, and there's a whole bunch of people underneath who kind of just got on and did what they were told. So digging into that a little bit more, the reason this is important, this kind of social complexity and organizational culture, is because we've had this shift within the last 30, 40 years from these kind of routine-based roles where we're kind of doing a thing repetitively and it's a fixed process, to more knowledge-based roles where we're all hopefully kind of creatively solving problems, whether that's via code or research or design, whatever it is. It's not just do the same thing again. And the nature of digital problems relates back to these two things here, in that the definition isn't always as clear. Like, I know I've worked on projects where things have not been clearly defined, and I could ask 3 different stakeholders. They would have to tell me 3 different things that we were building. And if we don't have this stability that, again, I imagine used to be the case, because we're working in technology, which is rapidly changing, and we're also working in anything that's online can be delivered by anyone, anywhere, pretty much. So you're not just competing against the shop next door, you're competing against the world. And there's only so much market research you can do to understand what's going on in that whatever field you may be working in. So I think this makes it a really kind of distinctly digital challenge. So moving on to some of the kind of identifying the problems within an organization's structure and culture. And again, this is not my area of expertise, so feel free to say I'm wrong. One of the key points that I've brought out from Ed Catmull, and I believe this Creative Ink is actually a book that I haven't read, but I found the quote. So where there is more truth in hallways than meetings, you have a problem. And I can't understate the number of times I've had discussions that weren't had in the meeting where they should have happened for various reasons. Some more of these kind of red flags that I've experienced is leadership or lack of. That may be that there's not been a clear vision set by whoever's in charge of the project or the program of work. But the people who are delivering it and have the knowledge are not necessarily empowered to make the decisions and have the input that they need to have. And then also the team structure. And this is mainly around kind of siloed teams and ways of working.Maybe you've got a team who work on mobile and don't do anything else, and then someone who works on the main website. That can potentially lead to a very disjointed solution. So a couple of my experiences, I'm trying to make these as anonymous as possible. Nothing from my current employer. So I've been involved in good and bad of these kind of examples. So I've been involved in projects that have been very deliverable focused. And this is thinking many years ago, where all that mattered was delivering the things that could be handed over onto someone else who would execute. But you never really saw the value in that execution. Maybe it never got built. Where did it go once you handed over the wireframes, the prototype, the research? Had a situation where the client was totally bought into the entire process of being user-centered and doing research. It's like, oh, this is really cool, getting really, really well, until some research came up that didn't agree with their point of view. And then you're like, oh, now it's the research against you. It turned out they weren't so bought in after all. When it's worked well, it's been mainly, I think, the key thing I could identify would be who that kind of sponsor or stakeholder, what stakeholders were within the organization who were really going to give the buy-in to deliver a good product at the end of it, or a good service. So briefly to summarize, at the moment, I feel, this says what I'm trying to say much better, is that the digital work environment and employee experience are like the blind spots of the ongoing digitalization process. So this is as we're moving into this, or have moved into this knowledge-based economy with digital tools everywhere, both that you're delivering with and the ones you work with as a kind of a member of the organization. We're not there yet. There's a lot of thinking to be done. So just to summarize, I'd say, first of all, be aware of these potentially unique challenges of digital, that things are changing quickly and that they're not as clearly defined as when you're designing kind of physical things. Make sure everyone is on the same page. Make sure there's real value in what gets delivered. So that could be, there's no point focusing necessarily on the ideal solution if that is not going to get buy-in or is not feasible. And this kind of comes down, kind of like you were saying about the technology. That you could say use this tech, but if it's too expensive and they're not going to get buy-in, you're wasting your time. And at least in my experience, that is when I've been kind of demotivated, is when you do all the work and then it never leads anywhere. I'd hope none of us want to work on projects like that. And yeah, try to get an understanding of the culture. You might not be the kind of leading the project, but you can still understand what people's roles are and what knowledge they bring to the table. So kind of try and empower other people in whatever way you can. And this is something I never thought I would do. Although I have a MacBook, I'm not a big Steve Jobs fan, but he put it very nicely here. Doesn't make sense to hire smart people and tell them what to do. You hire smart people so they can tell you what to do. I think that really gets to the bottom, empowering your organisation, your employees, whatever it may be. And thank you very much. Anyone got any questions?
I've got a question.
Okay, great.
So, what would you say for people coming from kind of maybe more of a UX or kind of wider design background is the best way to get a handle on kind of understanding these organizational dynamics? Like, what would your main tip be?
I think it's going to differ in every situation, as we always say in UX, nothing's going to be exactly the same, but spending time to understand those points of view, whether that's as like a group. I know I've spent like almost kind of mini internal workshops to try and understand the client and kind of their point of view and what really is driving them, because what is driving them is not always what's written in kind of a brief that you're given, for example. So it's getting kind of underneath that, and then it's that iterative approach, learning as you go, I think. Any more? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shaq.